Hello, everyone, and welcome back to How I See, the Leica Podcast. I am joined today with Eva Woolridge. Eva, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to get to chat with you and take a deep dive into your creativity, your journey, and it's just amazing to have you on today. How are you doing?
Jack, anytime you call, I will answer. Like any opportunity to sit in a space and kiki, I'm down.
Yap.
Just yap away. So I'm great.
Amazing.
Life is good. Work is amazing. And feeling really focused this year.
Amazing.
Can't wait to share with you.
I'm excited to dive into it. But before we get into where you are currently, I'd always just love to start out with, where did your journey in photography begin?
Well, I always like to share that, after I won the Women Photo Award in 2019, my Nana, who recently passed away this year, she sent me a photograph, no letter in it, just a photograph of me around 3 years old. And I'm holding a camera to my face, like 90s old school camera. And it's a portrait of me taking a photograph at like the earliest time you could take one, meaning you can like hold your head up. And I have that photograph on my mantle surrounded by souvenirs of projects I've done. And it's such a testament to me that my life path has always been a visual storyteller. And that is my anchor. That's my North Star. Whenever I feel disarrayed or I don't know what's the next step, I look at that photograph as a testament, you are meant to do this. So just keep being a storyteller and everything else will fall into place. So it really started as a kid. Yeah.
Now, you've had a camera in your hand since you were a child, but was there any specific moment where you felt like you really connected to photography, where it was like, yeah, this is definitely what I'm supposed to be doing?
I mean, I think that happened quite a few times growing up. My parents really surrounded us with a lot of visual art growing up. Like my friend Jewel and I would laugh, in college, hitting the herb, and we'll be walking around my parents' home at the time, and there would be edition pieces of Miles Davis, his work, or, relief sculptures of West African narratives, wood carving that creates different stories. And, we had coffee books that were photography books that really showed the expansion of humanity and the different life experiences and cultures. And so, I remember having a camera, like a Canon point and shoot in the early 2000s. I would bring that to middle school and take photos on field trips. I would bring that to sleepaway camp. And it was really sleepaway camp that brought me the freedom to experiment and play with a camera with my friends. I would take photos of the sunfish sailboats or kids playing basketball or talent shows. I would try to make silhouette photographs. So there were these different times where I just always had a small camera on my wrist. And but then there was a moment, I think when I was around 16 or 17, I'm just gonna say it's 18. My family left. They were out, and I was in my family's we had a nice little library of different books, and my family were really big with interior decorating and architecture. So the library was one of my favorite rooms to be in. And I took a photograph of myself nude before taking a shower that was silhouette with this giant window that had the daylight just shining through. And so I propped up with books. I didn't have a tripod and my little Canon point and shoot, and just set a timer and just did this really beautiful silhouette of myself looking out the window. You couldn't see my identity. You only saw the light curving down my backside. And I looked at that photo, I was like, damn, like this looks like art. This looks great. And, I was nervous to show my parents because I was like, okay, here's a nude photograph of me at 18. And my mom and dad received it really well. They're like, wow, this is really beautiful. Is this what you do when we're out? It's like walking around naked. I was like, you guys don't need to know. But that was one of those bigger moments where I was like, oh, experimenting to create something visually enticing. I can do that. I can make something that isn't just like candid. I can make something that is abstract, interesting, and makes you investigate the photograph more closely. And so I think that was like a big moment for me. Yeah.
It sounds like you also had a lot of support from your family, not only through all the art that was surrounding you to give you inspiration and influence you, but when you bring a piece of you and vulnerability to them and they're supporting you to go forward, did that have a big impact on your development as a creative too?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I love talking about my family. Yeah, I mean, my parents encouraged my brother and I to follow our dreams, be our own leaders, be entrepreneurs. And they said, you literally can do whatever you want as long as you can make money. And that's very sincere. Like I grew up fortunate to go to public school and connect with all of these different creatives in the public school system of South Orange and Maplewood, New Jersey. And I was surrounded by artists that like were in Brooklyn that had their kids in New Jersey, and our funding was supporting the arts for kids. And so I felt like my parents prepared us the best that they could to follow our own path to make us happy. And I feel very fortunate to have support. Like my brother is in tech and working as an entrepreneur in gaming where it's called Players Lounge, and you can bet money based off of your skill level versus someone else online playing FIFA. And that was something he created because he just liked video games. He used to tutor kids on video games as a job and as a teenager.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's like the creativity of do what you want to do, just figure out how you can sustain yourself. And it wasn't easy. At certain points, I was doing 3 jobs at the same time. A server, a receptionist, and doing photography, bartender, working in nonprofits. Like I hustled to get to this point.
How did you find balance through all of that? Because I feel like a lot of people throughout their development where they want to be just a full-time creative, they're doing that where they're working multiple jobs. But how did you find the balance to still be able to show up for your creativity as well?
I mean, I had to. I went to school for communications, right? And I did not have the attention span to like withstand the corporate world. I didn't. I wasn't fulfilling. There were a lot of moments in the world that were happening that I wanted to speak about. And I knew what my goal was like, I want the freedom to create. How do I put myself in the position where people can trust me to create and I can sustain a life by doing so? But it wasn't easy. Like I had moments where I was like, I'm ready to quit. And I was probably like 26, which is such a young, naive age to think you're going to quit something. And then there are small opportunities that happen that remind you, no, you're meant to do this. And those opportunities set the trajectory and gave me enough fuel to get to the next step and to get to the next step. But don't be caught up in the illusion that like the photographers that you see constantly like having work aren't also freaking out on the inside saying, how am I going to pay my bills? Do I have to get a second job? Many of us do have second jobs or third jobs, like, And it's not to discourage, but the point is not to reach this level of fame. It's being able to create a life where you can be an artist and sustain yourself.
Earlier, we touched on the Like Women Photo Project Award.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk about your project, Size of a Grapefruit. Would you be able to share with me and the audience how that project came to be, what you kind of went through, and then how you developed that project?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that like before that award, I was ready to quit. that was the gift of like, no, people are recognizing you. Keep going, just enough. Just keep going. In 2018, I had a traumatic medical experience where I had an ovarian cyst. And not only was like the ovarian cyst very scary, it was most literally the size of a grapefruit. That's why the series is called that. And I've never experienced a medical emergency on that level before. And especially around my reproductive organs, which I was a longtime advocate and activist for more support in and resources. So the cyst is led to a long day of going to like urgent care and having a white female doctor dismiss my concerns. She brushed it off saying it's food poisoning. She was saying, what like Japanese restaurant did you go to so I can avoid it at all costs? Like very microaggression based advice that was very disheartening. And then once we got to the hospital, I had to wait behind a woman with a sprained ankle for 45 minutes despite the urgency of my condition. All at once, I was just receiving and reviewing information of like the past, present, and the future of how Black women are treated in emergency medical scenarios, dismissed, not listened to, and sometimes taking advantage of. Like I was thinking about the women in the past, like Fannie Lou Hamer, who received a hysterectomy without her consent when she was in surgery. So that is like trauma that Black women and Black people generally have, is not already trusting a system that is supposed to take care of us. So when I'm in this very vulnerable state, my dad's asking all these questions like, does she need to have her ovarian removed? Is that necessary? Like, show me the proof. Like, there's so much extra intention and care that needs to take place instead of just trust the doctor. Yeah. And then once I got my ovary removed, when I came for my like diagnosis and checkup, I really wasn't given that much information. I had no idea if I could still have a period, if I could still have kids. They just said, this is a dermoid cyst and good luck. And I was just like, also being by yourself, and being in your 20s, you're not prepared to have someone with you to advocate for you because you're already juggling all this other information. So that was an experience I had to sit with, review, move through the trauma of that. And then I had someone from University of Maryland, an old classmate, send the Like a Woman in Photo Award grant. And they were like, you should apply to this. So that was happening at the same time as my like healing, right? Okay. And I was like, okay, I will. My psychic told me that something positive was going to happen and I was going to win a grant. So shit, might as well be this one. And I created work, Size of a Grapefruit, based off of this French photographer's 90s book or early 2000s called Soul, which my parents had as a coffee book at home. And I can't say his name properly. For years I struggle with it, but Thierry Legoux is how I pronounce it. But he's a French photographer that photographed these beautiful Black women in these like high lighting contrast, like a photo shoot where they were creating shapes with their body that were sensual and yet soft and strong and empowering. And it was like seeing Black women seen in such a beautiful, raw way that just like elevated their beauty in just their essence. I was like, I need to recreate something like that. And so he was my inspiration. That book was my inspiration. And so I asked my college friend, Nicole, who used to dance on like a dance team. She's a beautiful full-figured woman who at the time was dabbling in modeling. And I was like, okay, girl, bring that dance energy. You know, I had my cousin Gab come and assist me, which I never had an assistant at the time. And we made something really raw and beautiful. And it was an example of making decisions in real time that just felt good without the pressures of performing like a photographer. Like, you have hundreds of people on your set and you have to like make sure that you're presenting the work in the right way. This was just the three of us in a small, like, Clinton Hill raw industrial photo art studio I was sharing with like 10 other Pratt people. And we made something so beautiful that was a conversation on microaggressions that Black women experience during medical emergencies through my personal gaze. And that is the story of Size of a Grapefruit.
Love it. And I find it so interesting too. Like, before, you were talking about how that one photo that resonated with you, that you shared with your parents, you had room to experiment and be creative. And it sounds like on this project, it was the same kind of feeling where you had room to play and share your vision. Another question I have for you is, you're going through such a deeply personal and vulnerable experience. How did you find the courage to share that with the world, what you were going through?
It was hard. I remember I was telling my dad that I wanted to talk about what happened to me, and with the best intention of his heart and him wanting to like protect his daughter, he said, you know, you don't have to share this with anyone. Like, you don't need to share this. Almost like just, again, trying to protect me and like privacy. I think in the past and now, just who I am, I'm very open and vulnerable about things that have happened to me. Because it's like almost externally trying to make sense of the situation. And so I don't censor myself. If it helps someone else, great. But in real time, I'm also trying to figure out why certain things happened and how I feel about it. And so Size of a Grapefruit was discussing the emotional stages before, during, and after the surgery and the effects it had on my mental health and my body and my hormones fluctuating and what that felt like, and the depression I had and the isolation and not feeling safe or protected in the world. And by sharing that in a visual way where it can be interpreted and being celebrated, because it just visually, it's engaging. It's simple, but it is engaging. And then learning the story behind it. I had people writing emails and letters to me as it got more and more exposure. People I haven't talked to since high school, like literally writing letters saying, thank you so much for sharing your story. I now had to push my doctor to advocate for myself. And I found out I had traces of like cervical cancer that I have to now process. But I wasn't going to advocate for myself as much as I did until I saw your story. And I said, holy shit, like that's what matters to me. That attention matters to me, not for the sake of fame, but for the sake of inspiring and motivating others to advocate for themselves. I want more of that. I want a bigger platform so I can share more of that. And it all stems from being vulnerable enough to share your truth. No, I can't dictate like what happened to you. And so it's scary. It's vulnerable. It's like shouldn't be picked apart and dissected, but I found it more beneficial to understand what happened to me by sharing it and then finding meaning behind it with that platform so I can help other people, if that makes sense.
It's beautiful. Did you ever imagine that through this work that you were creating that you would help other people during that process? Or was that something where afterward you're like, wow, the fact that somebody went and advocated for themselves and now they're getting the help that they need is just a beautiful, almost like post thing from that project?
Yeah, I had no idea it was going to be, give me purpose in that way. Yeah. when I first made it, and how I like to treat all my projects is I'm making it because I want to, and I need to make sense of the world, or I want to celebrate a group of people, or I think this is really exciting. Like, you know me, Jack, so you know that like I'm a very excitable person, and I'm like, and so there's certain things that I just really care about. So I like to make stuff out of that. Or if something traumatic happens to me, it does, I'm not special because a certain thing happened to me. It is honestly me trying to figure out why, how it affects me, how it's affecting others. And I just don't mind sharing it to the world. And I hope that I continue to have that courage, because I want other people to feel comfortable sharing their truth and their authenticity and advocating for themselves. So
I hope that you do too, because it inspires other people to do the same.
thanks.
Of course.
Two Pisces, very sentimental.
This is why it's going to be a good talk. In a talk, you also said that art is a vessel for our trauma. And through this project, was it something that throughout the project it helped you process what happened, or was it something that in post it helped you process more? What was that kind of mentality like throughout?
I love that question because I think it surprises a lot of people. Defining the project happened in post. Like I knew the prompt for the grant was discuss a current political, social, or cultural event that's happening in the United States around women. And so I said, well, this traumatic event just happened to me. I'm a woman, so I'll just make something like that. I know my inspiration is coming from this book, Soul. So I know I want to play with lighting, contrast on dark skin. And I know that my cis was the size of a grapefruit, so I'm going to use a grapefruit. That was it. And there wasn't manipulation. I wasn't even allowed to use manipulation for the grant. So it was in post where, and I also want to say that I've already tried to make a version of that Soul book like 5 years prior in college, called Peeled Paint, where I literally put like acrylic paint on yoga and dancers, like yogis and dancers. And it's acrylic paint, so that really like dried and made their skin like brittle and shit. And I felt so bad. But I collaborated with my artist friend, Kiyomi Taylor, and that was my attempt that made something beautiful, but I was like, that's not quite how he did it. So how can I do this again? So the whole point of the visual of Sides of a Grapefruit were the things I mentioned, and a second attempt to like recreate this book I was inspired by. So then when asked about the prompt, I'm like, okay, what do I care about? I really care about reproductive health, obviously, because I made this project for it. So how does that move beyond me and my story? Well, Serena Williams almost died giving birth to her daughter, Olympia. Beyonce also had like fibroids and was dealing with that, while knowing the facts that Black women died 3 times as likely giving birth than white women in the United States. And that is in comparison to like developing nations. With being the most expensive and wealthiest nations in the world, why do we have medical care that dismiss Black women, that we have the highest mortality rates? So these were the questions I were asking myself. And so I made my project and defined my project post creating it. And it was like a general blanket. It wasn't about the cis in itself, but it was just like, these are the issues that Black women are experiencing, and no one's giving them a platform or hearing them as they give themselves that platform. So how can we change this? How can I shed this light? All of that was defined after. And I was able to process that by attaching emotions to each of the 10 photographs I submitted. There's denial. That's when I denied the pain that was happening to me. And it's a conversation that women are often denying the pain they're experiencing because society has told us we're being too sensitive. Black women are so strong. We're soldiers. So we should be able to withstand any pain, and denying the fact that something medically concerning is happening to our bodies. And there was isolation. There was the weight of trauma, which is one of my favorite photographs, when the subject is holding the grapefruit and it's like hanging over. And it's just like the weight of traumatic experiences Black women have to endure and how it just like pulls us down. Those were defined after. That was a long story for for you, but yeah.
No, it's a great insight for everyone to understand what the process is like, and that not necessarily during a project you have to have it defined, but it may present itself to you throughout your work.
Exactly. And I think I love to emphasize that to photographers. I'm like, just make the thing you see in your head and define it later. How is that? Isn't that the point of it?
Yeah.
Looking at art and be like, what does that inspire in you? You are also a viewer of it. You're a participant, you're a creator, and you're also a viewer. So when you create something, what is it telling you after? That's one of my favorite quotes from like learning about Michelangelo. Like in art history, I was in AP art history. Mm-hmm. And I did nothing with it, didn't even study it in college. But I was really obsessed with the Renaissance and also learning about Michelangelo. And he was described of when he was sculpting, he would say it was like freeing the sculpture from the marble. So the sculpture's already there, but he's just freeing it from the brick of the marble, the block of it. And I love that quote because it's like we can define what we're creating ourselves after it shows. And we're like, okay, so who are you? You were meant to be this creation. So let me identify you. Like, you tell me. I find it beautiful, and it de-stresses me all the time. Like, I no longer stress about, I just want to make shit I want to make, and then we'll see what happens.
I love the quote, and I love the mentality behind it. I think that'll help a lot of people listening too. It's always so weird during these conversations how I feel like the guest reads my mind. I wanted to go into peeled paint next. And before we go into that, I just think it's also really interesting how you had that vision for that project, but it just wasn't the right time. And then it came later for Size of a Grapefruit. The universe works in very interesting ways. But
it's so true. It's so true.
So peeled paint, tell me about this project. Obviously it was inspired by Soul, but what made you want to create something like this?
Well, it was 2014. I was a year before I graduated college. I only took one photography class. It was a film photography class, but I learned a lot about studio photography in that class. And I don't remember I think Embrace Your Essence came first, which was part of a class assignment, which is young women embracing what they found beautiful about themselves out of the opinions of like social conditioning and stuff like that. So that was the first time I created a series and a body of work. So naturally, after that, I was like, I have to make a body of work every 4 months. I'm not going to breathe. I'm just going to stress myself out and think that I have to make this all the time. So peel paint was like the first start of that high stress expectation for myself, which I did not fulfill, obviously. But it did create peeled paint, and it was a collaborative piece. So Kiyomi Taylor is an extraordinary painter. Like, this girl is huge, and we grew up together. She's so talented. And so I was in my hometown. I'm like, can you help me with this project? So she painted 3 people that we grew up with, Paris, Dondre, and Rebecca. They were dancers or yogis, and they were just down to clown. Like, they were like, okay, she's going to paint our whole body. We try to mix the acrylic with coconut oil. That didn't help. But that's just an example too of just going with the flow, because it did not create this smoothness like Soul did, but it did create these other textures. So that was the first time I was really playing with texture on body. And I would have the paint would start peeling off and getting dry, and just creating texture on their face, that I would zoom in on them and have it be like, oh, this reminds me of like if you are dehydrated in the desert, and what would that look like? Or looking at the Black male figure and the anatomy, Originally, the photos were in color, and I turned it to black and white because I thought it was just more enticing. And again, the focus became about texture. So that was like a project I was really proud of. That was me dabbling in fine art. It's funny because like I can't even really extract the photos in its proper sizes because I didn't know really how to properly save things or save them in large sizing. It is like so small. Like I can't really sell them properly.
Yeah.
But it was a great lesson too. You know, you all have to make on to the next body of work.
Exactly.
You know?
It's all learning.
Yeah.
You had a really interesting quote about this project too, which I love. You had shared that the paint masking their skin is a comment on our social consciousness, masking our divine identity. I would love if you can expand on that. And also looking at the work, one thing that I found super interesting, like you were saying, since it was acrylic, it was peeling. So to me, it was almost like the mask coming down a little bit.
Yeah, I think during that time, I was in my early 20s. And I was moving through the performative nature of masking as an adult, and then learning, because I fortunately have friends that were like slightly older too, and like I had generational relationships, like family relationships, and I learned that mask starts to peel away. Like how we like to present ourselves in the world start to crumble away, and we can really connect to the divinity that is ourselves. Like ourselves at our highest form is just ourselves at our most authentic. And peeled paint was a conversation that was defined after it was made, about what happens when we become more in tune with ourselves and grow into ourselves more. The shedding starts to happen. The demasking starts to fall away. And it's funny that you bring it up now because I feel like I'm in that stage again. And I think we go through multiple cycles of that in our lives.
It's so funny you read my mind again, but the
Psychic
divine
intuition.
portion of it and the divine identity.
Us Pisces, we can't help it.
I was going to say, it freaks me out. It's throwing me for a loop over here, but yeah, it was just a stunning project. And I thought the commentary on it was beautiful as well. And you already answered my question of whether that was something you sought out to create or if it just presented itself. So it's incredible that it kind of just continues to present itself in post. And going back to that quote by Michelangelo,
You know?
you just got to free the sculpture.
Just gotta free it.
So you touch on these deeper topics a lot, but then a lot of your work also focuses on uplifting joy and documenting these beautiful moments with people. Have you always wanted to document kind of both of these sides, or was it a way to find balance between some of those deeper topics to give yourself almost a reprieve from exploring all of that?
God, it's such a deep question.
I like to get
love
deep.
it. I love it. Okay. Clearly I'm all about joy.
Yeah.
Such a deep question. Let's laugh about it. It's an important balance for me to have my work be expressing a solution and optimism rather than the harsh cruelties and the realities of the world, because we all can live in that. We all experience it, especially now.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like a duty to inspire other people to face challenges in the world and lean on others to move through it. It feels like I must package the realities with optimism, with solution-oriented mindset. And so it's never to discount anyone's truth. And then how do we bring ourselves out of the traumas or negativities by creating something beautiful, whether that is like physically, through art or photography, community-oriented like work. Because it's so easy to live in the despair. It's so easy to just be pessimistic, and I don't fault anyone to do that. But like I grew up with the mindset of resilience and finding joy anywhere you go. I have to, or I would lose myself. I would no longer feel connected to myself if I fell into despair. And it's sometimes a very lonely place to be. It's something that I don't take lightly, and neither do the close friends around me take, because I have breakdowns. Like, I am absolutely the girl that will call my friend, FaceTime them, sobbing, crying. I don't know how to get myself out of this. I am struggling. I feel lost. I'm confused. I have imposter syndrome. And they let me get it out. They let me express it. And then I take a day, and then I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Pull yourself back.
Let's pull myself back up. How can I figure this out? How can I restructure this? How can I use this tool to help push my platform forward? Or, I'm absolutely the ugly crier that needs the space to do so that I can bring myself back up and bring my community with me, because they help me get there. Like, it's not a isolated solitude thing.
When you're bringing yourself back up, where do you go to seek out that joy?
Avatar: Last Airbender.
Beautiful.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I return to simple things that help me create optimism and charge me. I let myself cry. I let myself be fueled by my loved ones. Like, despite my large community, I have a really small circle of people that are like truly my ride or dies. Yeah. And so they see all of that ugliness. And I say ugliness, I think crying is so beautiful, but like the raw parts, right? Yeah. I find support through journaling, therapy, and watching stuff that is like a hero's journey. Mulan, Avatar: Last Airbender, Sailor Moon, Steven Universe. These seem childish, sure, but the messaging behind these somewhat childlike shows way deeper, and I think more adults need to tap into their childlike magic and mindset to ground themselves, but ground themselves in like magic, and things are possible, and that we can create the world we want to live in. It doesn't have to be dystopian. And that's why I like watching a hero's journey, because despite all odds, despite all traumas, they're able to figure out. And that's why Avatar: Last Airbender was the first thing that I would do. You know, when people talk about presentations to give to their friends, that would be mine.
That's your presentation.
Why adults need to watch, why Avatar: Last Airbender needs to be a required viewing for all age groups at least once in their life. Yeah. The entire universe, not just, sure, we can start with
Make the presentation. Make the presentation.
Yeah, right? Okay, I'm going to do it.
I think that's a great piece of advice, though. You need to find the things. And I think the depiction throughout the entire story of you're going to go through a lot, but can you overcome that? Yeah,
that is human. That is what connects every human together. And shit, Animal Kingdom too. Like, that is almost like the point, in my opinion, of living, is how do you continue to overcome and see the beauty in the world despite the hardships, the pain, the violence, the suffering that occurs? How do you find the light behind it? And I'm sure that sounds to others, especially in this very male-dominated industry, that's so like naive, that's so whatever. And I'm like, I don't give a like, excuse my language, feel free to beep. But it's just like, it, especially in the last few years, we've seen a disruption in our day-to-day life, and it can be quite unsettling and scary. What are we going to do about it? Are we just going to like surrender? No, absolutely not. I'm going to figure out how to like bring my community up and make sure friends and family feel safe, that their freedoms feel honored. And I don't know how. I don't know if my one action is going to change it, but I'm going to at least try. And I think everyone should at least try. Have you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. What tribe do you think you're in? Nation, excuse me, not tribe.
I would love to say air. I think that's where it would be, because I don't know. I feel like I like to flow. So I feel like I resonate with that the most.
I love that answer. Yeah. Yes, air nomad.
Yeah. Take what's coming to you and use that to fuel you to go into the right direction.
Yeah.
That's how I would feel about it.
I totally see you with a bison, 100%. But you'll be like the air nomad, truly as a nomad, you'll be traveling the world connecting. You'll be like, you'll move away from the true structured tradition of that universe is like Buddhism. Yeah. And you're going to be like, I got to like connect more with like the different nations. Let's figure it out.
Bring us together.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that vision. I think this is actually a good segue into the next question that I have, which is, how do you identify the projects that have meaning to you? So obviously there was Size of a Grapefruit, there was Peeled Paint, but today, what is it that resonates with you when you find a project that you believe in?
What resonate? Can you help me?
Yeah.
What do you mean by like resonate? Like what? How
do you know when a project presents itself that you're like, that's the one I want to work on?
Oh, I get really excited. So a great simple version of that is if I'm shooting and I see a really sick photo or the pose, I can't help it. I will be like, I squeal, and I warn subjects like if I'm really hyped, I'm gonna squeal.
Yeah,
and that honestly helps disarm them too, because they get more relaxed and they start laughing, and it's great. I just get really excited. And so you have to be in touch with your body. What's really exciting you, especially if it's a long-term project, you can lose interest. If you're in my head, lose interest really quickly. But you got to be disciplined. You have to move forward. Immediate gratification is not going to be enough fuel to finish a project. It has to be like the intentionality and what do you want the impact to be. Oh, that's funny. That sandbag says impact.
There's little signs everywhere.
Yes. You start talking about numerology and I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's what do I want my message to say and how can it help people? So I think my project right now, I have quite a few projects that I've been working on, but the one that's been taking the longest is my documentary, In These Hands, a Black birth workers documentary. So this is where me and my team traveled across country interviewing Black doulas and midwives and historians and academic scholars, mothers that experienced traumatic birthing or had traumatic birthing experiences, and discuss how midwives and birth workers have impacted our understanding of reproductive health, how they've been erased from history, their influence has been erased from history, and their impacts on reproductive justice work today. So I made that in 2021. Production has been done for like 3 years, and we still haven't finished the film. And a lot of it has to do with money, timing, pitching. We have the production and producers connected to us that are credible and really want to work with us. And for the last few years, it was very frustrating because I was like, I want this to be out in the world. This is important. Like, I want Black women to find a solution that isn't just being disregarded or dismissed in the current medical system that we have in the US. Like, what are other solutions that prioritize listening to their clients and these birthers? And midwives and doulas, to me, was a more immediate solution. And to not receive the financial support for a few years was very disheartening. And it felt like, God, is this ever going to go out? I started feeling like, is it me? Like, can I not get projects done? Do I not have the discipline and patience to get projects done? But then this past year, something changed in me. It could easily have been that question of discipline or that question of like, am I going to finish this? that fueled me saying, I have to finish this. Like, this has to be taken. I feel helpless during all these current events that are happening. This is my lane. Reproductive health is a lane I'm personally passionate about from day one. So I have to get this done. So I worked with my best friend, Nick, who is a top tier project manager who gave his services for free. And he was like, let me organize that cute artist brain of yours. Let me just structure my little type B fairy. Let me just structure you a little bit. He gave me an entire spreadsheet, entire calendar, color coordinated of how do I prepare my crowdfunding? How do I connect? How do I build my social media? And at the time, this past year, I became really serious about my social media. I saw benefits of how social media has fueled people's career, who I know personally, who now have book deals and TV deals and stuff like that. And I said, okay, enough of why is this not working for me? It's time to re-strategize and figure out how I can make this happen for me. Yeah. Crowdfunding has been wonderful. We already got like 11K the first week that it's been incredible. Out. We have like weeks left. And our goal is 75K. So, and we have the money I'm not worried about getting, but what's great is that we're getting exposure and conversation around it. So everything is right place, right time. Yep. Like in this current state, we have an administration that do not want us here. And people feel like they don't have power. And then here I am saying, well, let's figure out how to get this power. Let's figure, what can I do to help deliver a more optimistic message and give control back to people? And I think that's, people are feeling like, okay, I can put my money towards something that seems inspiring. Optimism and inspiration will always be a great motivation for people, like, to support your projects. So yeah, I think I derailed a little bit, but hopefully that was clear.
It was great. And again, reading my mind. But I wanted to ask you, because I knew you were working on this short film. Yes. What was that transition like going into filmmaking from a photography background?
Well, I love that question. My family's big on movies. Ooh, okay. We're a big movie family. Like it's what connects us. My partner and I are really big movie people, and I love visual storytelling. I wanted to go to school being a director of documentaries. Yeah. So my documentary, In These Hands, is a full feature documentary. And I did not go to school for it. Yeah. I'm self-taught. I trust my community who've connected me. Like, the creation of this is a perfect example of what that transition looks like. I was at the allergist, I think it was 2020 or 2021, and I ran into this now good friend, Brittany Brock, at the allergist. And I was like, yeah, I was on this panel. We were talking about reproductive health, and I met a doula, and she was telling me how, like, during the antebellum period, you know, lay midwives, they were really connected with different herbal substances if they wanted to, like, abort and not have like birth happen during enslavement. They were healers in that space to help protect women and help deliver babies safely. I think I want to go around cross country in a van with my cat and take photos of midwives. That was my plan. Yeah. She said, that's a crazy, awesome idea. I have a master's degree in antebellum women's health. We should make a project together. Wow. We should make a documentary. And so talk about universal timing. So we had a meeting. She said, let's make a film. And I said, okay. And I brought along my friend Odalis from college. She's a producer for creative agencies. My cousin Jill is also a producer. She worked as an accountant on different television shows. And Brittany brought us Sophia Chenier as our director of photography. I was the director and taking photographs. We had a funding, Shaquila Todd, project manager Nick Martin. Like, we started gathering teams together, and it snowballed effect that within, I think, 2 months, we raised like 40K, had a van, and traveled across country, and we got the project done. It was so, is this happening in real time kind of experience. And I was so scared about directing. I was so scared about filmmaking, but I learned that directing is what I do in photography.
Yeah.
I direct subjects how to pose, how to feel, what to embrace about themselves. This is the same. It's just with a larger team, and it's learning how to be collaborative. And I feel like photography can be like such a solo industry if you want it to be. But filmmaking has to be more community. It has to be more team oriented. It's a group project. Yeah. So that was a great lesson for me, and it really spread out the responsibility so it felt manageable. And I love filmmaking, and I can't wait to do it more. No one can tell me otherwise. Everything is self-taught, and community funded. So I'm getting my stuff done.
Well, I can't wait to see it come to life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I have another segment for you that should be a little bit fun. It's called our rapid fire segment.
Okay.
Quick series of questions.
Cool.
And first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Oh,
Here we go.
Can I curse? Hold on.
Maybe.
Okay, I'll try to reduce it.
If you could describe your photography in one word, what would it be?
Enchanting.
If your camera could speak, what would it say about you?
Girl, please stop dropping me.
Oh my God. If you could only shoot documentary or in studio for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Yo, I'm having this crisis. It's supposed to be rapid fire.
Rapid fire. First thing in your gut.
I would have to say documentary. You
Perfect.
can make that look visually studio.
No, I liked that response because you have to think about it a little bit. But I like that segment because it's intuitive. Whatever you're feeling,
It's documentary.
documentary.
But that's tough. Can I share?
Expand, please.
I am in this fork in the road, it feels, in my career right now where I'm trying to, I don't know if I should lean even more so in documentary, which so much of my work is documentary work, or if I miss the fine art studio space, how can I blend the two? So that question really caught me off guard.
Now I'm reading your mind.
I know.
But if I can say this, why not both?
Why not both?
Why not both?
Yeah.
You don't need to be one thing.
Thank you.
Of course.
That question is just, yeah.
Don't be stressed. And then two more things for you before we wrap up here. But
Aw.
I know, I wish we could talk the rest of the day. I know we could
We
too.
could. You could just cut it down.
Yeah. You know what? We'll just go outside and we'll continue this.
Yeah.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is exhale. You have no idea who you're about to become.
I love that.
I really want to like reconnect with her and say like the things that make you so excited about the world deserve to be shared. So don't feel imposter syndrome about how you share it. I am growing into myself as a adult and a woman, and I've along the way learned what trusting myself and following my own compass looks like. And I do think of the size of a grapefruit again, just with this sweet care and, you know, advice that my dad gave, which is like, you don't have to share this. And like what that would have been if I did not share what I experienced. Because remember, I was ready to like let go of photography.
Yeah.
And I still see myself climbing into my career and how my life as an artist is blending with my career. But if I did not trust myself to share what is vulnerable, I see that as the marker of like what could have been, where I am now, and what could have been. right?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy I trusted myself. So that was, yeah.
I'm very happy you did too. And then the last thing we love to offer each of our guests is an opportunity to shout out an up-and-coming creative who you admire. Is there anybody that you'd like to put on our audience's radar?
Please, big time. Yeah. I want to start off by saying Adam Easterling. So he is one of the many people in my village that I grew up with. There's something in the water. in Maplewood, South Orange, there's something in the water. He had just had his first solo show his series called Handle with Care. And he has been a working artist since high school. I still have his apparel that he's made, Infinity. That was his first series that he made in high school. And he has worked as like an assistant and apprentice to Hank Willis Thomas, whose mom is Deborah Willis Thomas. Yeah, Deborah Willis Thomas. She was the judge for the Like a Woman in Photo Award my year. So Hank is a very established artist and has provided the resources for Adam to develop his work in its fullest capacity. His work is archival. His work is Black power. His work is culturally so infused with spirituality and family and just vibes. Like, talk about culture with a capital C. Like, that is Adam Easterling's work. And I am profoundly proud of him. And I think everyone needs to check him out. He is going to blow up. I'm trying to buy one of his pieces like now before he blows up.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a person to watch for sure.
Amazing.
I have others, but
Well, I appreciate you sharing it with us. And Eva, thank you so much for joining today. It's always such a pleasure to sit with you and just get to chat. I wish we had more time, but we'll have to just do it again.
I'll come back a third time.
We might as well.
I'll wear a different outfit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. Love you and Leica.
Thank you.